Hello everybody, I hope you're all well. So I know quite a lot of you guys are wondering what's going on. Last week I uploaded a video called The Rise of Bimbofication and I had it up for literally less than 24 hours. I put it up in the evening and then the next morning I read all of you guys' comments, and after reading the comments I decided to take the video down and just try and do it again. There were so many subjects related to bimbofication that I missed. I focused on it in a truly sexual liberation sort of point of view when there's so many other things to talk about: choice feminism, beauty standards, privilege, intersectionality. And I just want to say I am so sorry to anyone that was genuinely disappointed with that video. It was a complete oversight on my half, and I hope that this version of the video is so much better. And as usual, if you have any critiques, feel free to leave a comment. Some things haven't changed from my last video, such as the origins for the term bimbo and bimbos throughout history. I am still refilming it, so feel free to skip over it. There are timestamps down below. And if you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, today I'm talking all about the rise of bimbofication. It's a trend that I've mostly seen on TikTok of a lot of young women dressing up in sort of provocative skimpy clothing, very pink, almost a bit McBling, a lot of glam makeup, sometimes taking on a character of being an airhead in a satirical sense. We are seeing a lot of young women proudly using the term bimbo and reclaiming it, because usually the word bimbo is used in a derogatory way towards women by men. But there's actually so much to talk about with this new modern resurgence of bimbofication. Obviously there's the origins and bimbos throughout history, but also there is the big question of, is bimbofication really as empowering and as feminist as a lot of people are claiming it to be? And there's also how bimbofication relates to intersectionality, privilege, beauty standards, and also choice feminism. So first question to answer is, what is a bimbo slash bimbofication? I found a few definitions. The first definition I found for bimbo was an attractive but unintelligent or frivolous young woman. Frivolous meaning not having any purpose or value. Now this is a very basic, watered down version of the term bimbo. I found two definitions for bimbofication used by social media users to describe when someone becomes more attractive, has a glow up, or becomes more sexualized. And then there was of course the Urban Dictionary definition of bimbofication: the process of transforming into an airheaded slut, perfectly happy to be used and degraded. Now this definition definitely fits more bimbofication as a kink rather than bimbofication as sort of a transformation process of turning into a little bit of an airhead. If you guys don't know, bimbofication has a huge place in the kink community. It's basically a kink where you have no other thoughts other than pleasing your sexual partner. You essentially become a sex object for your partner. The origins for the term bimbo actually, I believe, go all the way back to the 1800s, and funnily enough the word used to be used to describe a foolish or inconsequential man. It was around the 1900s that it started to be used to describe sort of airheaded women that had a lot of sex appeal. I know the term bimbo fell off for a few decades in the 1900s, but it came back with a lot of power in the 1980s, with 1987 being named the year of the bimbo, mostly because that year and a few years before that there had been a lot of high profile scandals involving very beautiful young women. One of those scandals being Democratic presidential candidate Gary Hart was revealed to be having an affair with a very beautiful young woman called Donna Rice, and she was sort of known at the time as sort of the quintessential bimbo. The typical bimbo look is blonde hair, full lips, a very voluptuous body with an emphasis on big boobs, very glam, lots of makeup, lots of girly colours such as pink and purple, very low cut clothing, very short and tight clothing, and if you're more on the extreme side of being a bimbo, a lot of latex. legs. But you don't need to adopt all of these features to call yourself a bimbo. You can have black hair and be a bimbo, you can have small boobs and be a bimbo. But one thing I don't see discussed is I feel like not all bimbos are the same. I feel like there is a spectrum of bimbos, and I'm just going to explain it really quickly. So on this bimbo scale I've created two sides, and we have the soft bimbo and the NSFW bimbo. Neither is worse than the other, they're just different. So on the soft bimbo I decided to put our country queen Dolly Parton. She definitely has the look of the big boobs and the big blonde hair, but time and time again she proves how much of an intelligent person she is in interviews. And on the other side of the spectrum we have the British icons, also known as the destroyers. They're adult film stars and their entire niche is being just completely overemphasized bimbos. And if you guys follow them, I follow them, I think they are so funny. You guys would know that it's actually just a character. They're not actually like this. It's clearly a character which they do for their work. And if you actually look at any sort of interviews, you can tell they're very, you know, intelligent women. They just do this for work. And scattered between the soft bimbo and the NSFW bimbo, we have people like Marilyn Monroe, Anna Nicole Smith, Pamela Anderson, Katie Price, Nicole Richie, Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton, who all at one point have been known to be bimbos. Some of these women may not have had any intention to ever be called bimbos, people like Marilyn Monroe and Pamela Anderson, alongside others who were just called bimbos because they had sex appeal. There was no concept of women being able to be multifaceted beings. And of course alongside this we have the new age TikTok bimbos. Four very popular TikTok bimbos that I've found were Chrissy Schlepecker, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Bam Larotten, Paris Hilton's left titty and Faux Rich. I just want to preface this really quickly, but when I'm discussing and possibly critiquing the trend of bimbofication, I'm not coming after any of these TikTok users in particular. I'm not critiquing them in particular because I've gone through their profiles and they genuinely seem like well-intentioned, nice, good people. I'm rather having a discussion about the phenomenon of bimbofication as a whole. I'm not critiquing any individual in particular. And also I don't think any of the celebrities that I put on the bimbo scale are airheads in any way. Anna Nicole Smith was not stupid. She married a billionaire on his deathbed. And there are women on this scale who definitely aren't stupid but play into the airhead character. The one person in particular who did this for career purposes was Paris Hilton. More recently we have seen bimbofication rise in popularity on social media, in particular on TikTok. The new age TikTok bimbo does seem to differ slightly from the old school 80s bimbo. We all know the bimbo stereotype emphasises the bimbo being an airhead, and don't get me wrong, TikTok bimbos still play into that stereotype in sort of a satirical sense, but there is quite a big emphasis on a bimbo being a leftist. She's an ally, she's in tune with social and political issues, she supports BLM and ACAB, she reads the works of Marx, she's a communist. And I think a big reason for this is because the modern day bimbo isn't very compatible with right-wing political beliefs. Most right-wing people would look at a bimbo and just call them a slut. And because new age bimbofication has become politicized, it's become a lot of people's gateway into leftism and left-wing political ideology. But as you guys can imagine, there are some problems with this. Of course, when I was looking on TikTok, I did find bimbos who were women of colour, such as Faux Rich and Bam Larotten, but from what I found on TikTok and Instagram, most bimbos are white. And when you strictly learn about leftism and social issues such as racism, gender expression, classism, intersectionality, misogyny, only from very privileged cis white women, that's when it can become a problem. Now, obviously there is nothing wrong with privileged white women using their platform to talk about multiple social issues which don't necessarily affect them. I do it all the time. It's a great way to utilize your platform and your privilege. But when it becomes a problem is when your education about social issues and intersectionality ends at privileged white women, that's when it's a problem. You need to listen to people who have actual experiences with these issues. Now, I will leave a list of YouTubers down below who are either people of colour, LGBTQ+, or both, and if I've missed anyone out, please feel free to leave your recommendations in the comments too, who regularly talk about social and political issues. Some of my favourite off the top of my head are For Harriet, T Noir, ContraPoints, T1J, Cat Black, and very recently Abigail Thorne, aka Philosophy Tube, came out as trans. But also there's this question which I was sort of thinking about, and I want to know what you guys think of it. Does bimbofication almost aestheticize these very serious social issues? Maybe it can slightly trivialize these issues, because supporting BLM shouldn't really be a part of your aesthetic. It should be a part of you as a person if you're a decent human being. And I know the intentions are only good, but it is sort of eerily similar to the whole Hello Kitty says ACAB thing, where a lot of white people turned ACAB into sort of a trend and an aesthetic, to the point where it really watered down the very serious issue of police brutality. Let me know what you guys think, because on the other hand, bimbos could be doing this because they don't want bigoted people to join their community, which is a good thing. But the emphasis on leftism in bimbofication can be a little bit of a problem, because after reading you guys' comments on my last video before I privated it, bimbofication and sort of the bimbo aesthetic tends not to be very inclusive. Now, I personally think anyone, no matter what you look like, no matter what your ethnicity is, can adopt the bimbo aesthetic. I even spoke about this in my Pinterest aesthetics video. If you're someone who thinks that certain ethnicities and races don't fit into certain aesthetics, you're just being racist. But just because I think women of colour can adopt the bimbo aesthetic doesn't erase the fact that a lot of women of colour feel excluded from bimbofication. So already, because so many women of colour feel excluded, it isn't compatible with leftism. I do also want to discuss why has there been such a huge resurgence in bimbofication in 2020 and 2021. Many people are even calling 2021 the new year of the bimbo, and I'm thinking, why now? I think one major factor circles back to the I'm not like the other girls phenomenon. I have made a whole video about this, feel free to check it out if you haven't already. But I'm 22, but between the ages of sort of 11 to 15, I'm not like the other girls posts were extremely popular. And they were basically posts which would shame sort of girly girls and girls that like boy bands and makeup and fashion and just boys in general. They were very shamey, and one post which I remember being very popular on Tumblr was this post. Now, you guys actually told me in the comment section of my last video that this is actually a kink drawing, and I believe they might have like flipped it the other way to be posted on Tumblr, because I remember this post was popular on Tumblr as like an I'm not like the other girls post, and basically it's a stereotypical bimbo picking up a book and then turning into YN. But for years, posts like this which would shame girly girls were shoved down our throats constantly, and now that's no longer a cool thing to do. If anyone does this anymore, people just call them a pick-me. You know, now we've all grown up, now that we're adults, we now realise that being a girly girl and being like the other girls is not the worst thing in the world. So it's absolutely no surprise that a large subsection of women have found bimbos and bimbofication and have embraced it because it's just the ultimate girly girl. I also think the popularity of bimbofication spiking during the pandemic is also not a coincidence. Before the pandemic, a lot of people could live their lives very carefree and very mindlessly and not really thinking about things, and now it's just bad news all the time. Discussions and conversations about the pandemic and how bad it is everywhere you go. It's when you catch up with friends, it's when you talk to your family, it's when you switch the TV on adverts, it's when you watch the news, when you open your phone and go on social media, it's on there as well. And I think that consuming a lot of bad news isn't good for you, it isn't good for your mental health. So I think bimbofication in the literal sense of turning yourself into an attractive airhead is a form of escapism for a lot of people. But as you guys can tell, this is kind of controversial just because you do need to be in a place of privilege to just decide one day to never consume bad news again. But I don't think that many people do this at all, and like I said earlier, I'm someone who encourages people to stay in the loop, stay informed, but please take breaks from consuming bad news. Just look after yourself. And to be fair, this argument probably doesn't apply to the new age bimbo, just because there is such an emphasis on leftism, and also there doesn't tend to be that much of an emphasis on being an airhead or being promiscuous, and if there is, it's very obvious that it's a character, it's satirical. Now, this is where I've seen the most controversy surrounding the bimbofication debate. There have been multiple takes and sides to this. On one hand, we have people arguing that bimbofication is empowering and it is feminist because we are taking a formerly derogatory term used by men against women, reclaiming it, and now use it to describe themselves and don't care if men call them bimbos. But on the other hand, we have people arguing that turning yourself into a literal male fantasy is just pandering towards men. It isn't feminist because all you're doing is living up to straight men's sexual preferences. Now, firstly, I think we need to differentiate between bimbofication as a kink and then sort of new age bimbofication on TikTok. I'm going to start with bimbofication as a kink, and the first thing I'm going to say is that I think feminism and kinks is a whole other kettle of fish, which I am going to cover in another video. I do have it planned, I promise. But just to add my 2 cents, regardless of the psychology behind violent kinks, I don't think it makes someone any less of a feminist for partaking in those kinks. We all know I'm a feminist. I've been making sort of strictly feminist commentary for nearly 6 months now. And not to get into any of the details, but the type of stuff that I am into is very rough, violent, and degrading. Do I feel empowered doing it? I don't really know, but it makes me feel good, and I don't think that it makes me any less of a feminist that I'm into that kind of stuff. Of course, there is so much room for improvement when it comes to the way women are treated and kinks, etc. But what is slightly a positive sign is there are a lot more safe spaces than there were before for women to practice this type of behaviour consensually and without judgment. Now onto the conversation of new age TikTok bimbofication. In relation to sexual liberation, this is where stuff gets a bit complicated. On my last video, one of you guys commented saying I should check out Kim from Full Harriet's video about WAP and the spectacle of sexual liberation. It's a great video, I'll link it down below, and one thing she says in that video is, why do we have to view everything from a female empowerment lens? Why is everything that women do somehow have to be related to feminism? Why do we have to use feminism as a justification for enjoying things? And in relation to bimbofication, why has girls dressing up and calling themselves bimbos turned into such a big political issue? I can understand both sides. On one hand, why can't women just carefreely and mindlessly do things without it either being turned into a feminism debate or using feminism as a defense mechanism? But also on the other hand, because the term bimbo was a derogatory term in the first place, I think it was quite a natural progression for it to turn into sort of a political debate. And especially if misogynists are being critical of bimbofication, then of course feminism and empowerment is going to come into the conversation. But more importantly, in this video, Kim discusses how black women are very much boxed in the music industry, meanwhile white women have a lot more freedom to choose how they represent themselves. And she also talks about the difference of women being sexual out of choice versus women being coerced into being sexual to benefit their career. She also brings up, why do all images of female empowerment cater to the male gaze? Why are they all so sexualized? And you can apply that to bimbofication. Why is this new face of female empowerment again just a male fantasy? Again, why is it so sexualized? I'm not going to rehash all of her points in this video. I will leave the link to it down below because it's literally such a good video. And back onto the topic of sexual liberation, a lot of you guys were talking about in the comment section the internalized male gaze, and I'm not gonna lie, this spun my head a lot and I'm still not sure how much I believe this theory, but it makes sense. The definition of the male gaze is, in feminist theory, the male gaze is the act of depicting women and the world in the visual arts and in literature from a masculine heterosexual perspective that presents and represents women as sexual objects for the pleasure of the heterosexual male viewer. So this is basically the theory that because as women we have grown up in a very patriarchal, male-centered world, and because of this all women have an internalized male gaze. So no matter what we do, how we present ourselves, no matter how autonomous we feel when we're doing it, we are all doing it to impress men because of our internalized male gaze. Again, I'm not sure how much I believe this, and maybe it's because I don't want to believe it. I do definitely believe that all of us have some sort of internalized male gaze, but I don't think that every single person caters towards this internalized male gaze without realizing. I think that is a little bit heteronormative, but also am I just in deep denial? And I think another reason why I'm quite apprehensive about this theory is I don't like to get too personal on this channel, as most of you guys know. For as long as I can remember, men have caused me nothing but pain. You know, for as long as I can remember, men have hurt me so much that it's left me with trauma, that it's ruined my life at some points, it's ruined my relationships. And you know, the one thing that I really enjoy doing, which is my makeup and my hair and getting dressed up and doing my nails, the one thing that I enjoy doing, if it actually ends up being for men, the people who have done nothing but hurt me my whole life, I think, you know, for me and a lot of women, it's a very painful realization. I'm going to read a quote by Margaret Atwood about the internalized male gaze. Even pretending you aren't catering to male fantasies is a male fantasy. Pretending you're unseen, pretending you have a life of your own, that you can wash your feet and comb your hair unconscious of the ever-present watcher peering through the keyhole. Peering through the keyhole in your own head, if nowhere else. You are a woman with a man inside watching a woman. You are your own voyeur. Bimbofication and intersectionality. I have discussed this throughout the video, but a lot of you guys left comments on my last video saying you don't feel like bimbofication is feminist at all because as women of colour you feel very excluded from it. And like I said earlier, I may sit here and believe and think that anyone, regardless of your ethnicity and race, can join in with the bimbo aesthetic, and I'm sure many people on bimbo TikTok agree with this, but just because I think this, it doesn't take away the large amount of women of colour who do feel very excluded from this. Bimbofication probably puts Eurocentric beauty standards on a pedestal. I'm sure there is gatekeeping within the bimbo community. Bimbofication kind of seems a lot like choice feminism, and choice feminism is not very intersectional. A lot of us know that feminism has a lot of different branches and interpretations, and one of these is called choice feminism. It was coined by Linda Hirschman, and it's a very individualistic approach to feminism, and it's basically the belief that any choice a woman makes with her own free will is inherently feminist because she made it herself as a woman. Now, of course, a big part of feminism is women being able to make their own choices with their own bodies, but taking a very individualistic approach to feminism rather than the collective liberation of all women is problematic. The reason why choice feminism isn't very intersectional is because it doesn't take into account that some women have more choices than other women. The more privilege you have, the more choices you can make. The more you get to cherry pick how your life is going to be. Choice feminism doesn't take into account people's socio-economic conditions, gender identity, race, whether you're able-bodied or not, whether you're a sex worker. It doesn't take any of that into consideration. The be-all and end-all of feminism is women making their own choices. Now, what choice feminism does, which is actually quite quite clever is it depoliticizes feminism, which is obviously a very bad thing, by the way. Feminism is not a political issue under choice feminism, which can obviously be very damaging to marginalized communities, and it makes it possible for a lot of women to turn a blind eye to women who are less fortunate than them but still call themselves feminists. Choice feminism is very relevant to actually girl boss feminism. I made a video about that a few weeks ago, so feel free to check it out if you haven't already. I'm going to read a quote from an article which I found, which I'll link down below. For example, a choice feminist may say that a woman's decision to be either a stay-at-home mother or a career woman is feminist either way because she chose it via free will. This doesn't include women who are not wealthy enough to deliberate between the two and do both. These women didn't actively choose to work full-time and have children. They do it in order to survive, not to make a feminist or otherwise political statement. And when choice feminism is applied to bimbofication, I feel like this may apply more to sort of the old school 80s bimbos rather than bimbo TikTok. You know, these women who were called bimbos were seen as sex icons and some of the sexiest women alive. And if a choice feminist looked at someone like Pamela Anderson choosing to present herself the way she did and using her sex appeal to further her career, is inherently feminist because it's a free will choice that she made. But circling back to Kim's video about sexual liberation, obviously the 1980s was a very different time. Pamela Anderson presenting herself as a sex icon, we don't really know how much of it was her choice and how much she was coerced to do it to further her career. I will link down below another article about choice feminism. It's called Choice Feminism, a Self-Imposed Barrier to Progress. But yes, that's this video done. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this video was better than my last video. I've reread the script like 10 times and I felt like this was so much better. But again, obviously I'm open to critiques, so let me know what you guys think. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!